So I might reach out to you and ask you some questions,
Okay.
if that's all right.
Yeah, if you have an opportunity to bring up Cary, it's great. It's near Kalani National Park.
Oh, yeah, we're going there.
Okay.
Yeah,
And there's a,
it's gonna do a 6 mile hike.
You live? Okay.
But I don't know if my mom can do it.
So I'd like to call the meeting to order. First order of business is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
A motion.
Okay, and, yeah, just for the point of record, I was told that at a meeting like this, we didn't have to have a second.
Great.
I'm not sure why, but that's what it is. So if I seem to rush through that, that
Okay.
was the reason. And approval of the minutes of the last month's meeting, December meeting. It says December.
Yes.
Oh, in January, we
We
didn't
didn't
have
have
one.
one.
Right, no quorum. So do I have a motion
I
for
have a
that?
motion to approve
All right,
those
thank you.
meeting minutes.
And this is a point in the meeting when we open it to public comment. I know we have a presentation coming, but if anyone has a comment otherwise, public comments? All right, moving on. Ann, would you like to introduce our presenters?
Sure. These are some girls from the French Broad River Academy Math Lab, and over the course of the last month or so, they've visited the park, they've talked to some neighbors, they gathered some data, and they're here to present their findings about what the neighbors within a 10-minute walk of Maney Park who responded to the survey think about the future of the park.
We're keen.
And I'm pulling up your PowerPoint right now, if you give me just a minute.
And I also, if we need to plug in, I could plug in and then.
Oh, I got it, I think.
So here in the blue is Miss Alexandra Allison, and she's been their teacher that's leading the organization of all this, and Miss Saul, who's the academic director at the school. And French Broad River Academy is a 6 through 8 middle school down on the river. They have a north and south campus that's boys and girls, and they're eager to be involved in the community.
We'll all stand together, and that way we want to present.
This is the picture.
So I'm Alex Allison, and we participated in some real life statistics as part of our statistics unit. And our process for this was that we got together as a small group. This is about half of the group of students that participated. There were 12 of us in our research group. We created questions around what we would need in order to revamp a park. We went and canvassed the community within a 10-minute walking distance of the park, and then we analyzed our data, made a slideshow for you, and we created a little presentation. So I'm going to let them take it away.
So we took data on when you visit the park, do you enjoy the space you're in? So as you can see, 5 people said yes, 3 people said sometimes, and 5 people said no. So the people that said yes and no are actually tied. And I feel like with the park, there should be more people saying yes than no. So this shows that we should add more to the park.
We took data on how frequently your family uses the park, and so they're more seasonally and never tied. So this shows that if we added things that could work for summer summer temperatures and not too cold winter temperatures, this might make never and seasonally even out to a few times a week or monthly.
So we also took data on like what some words to describe the park would be, and there were 5 positive responses, there were 2 about neutral, I would say, responses, and 6 negative responses. The majority of them being negative is not what we want from this, and a lot of the words that they used were run down or underused. neglected, seatless, treeless, no shade. And a lot of these words connect so that if we added trees or we made it more family-friendly and colorful maybe, then people would use it a little bit more and there would be more positive than negative and neutral.
Okay. So, we wanted to know the ages of children in the households around the park, and a little under half of the people said yes. And our data showed people have younger children, and so maybe we could like add some like equipment for younger ages. So as you can see, there's like a lot of under 5 and then 5 to 11. We took research on what is the reason you visit Manny Park. And for playground equipment, and I do not use the park side. So it seems like people really do enjoy like playground equipment, and some people just don't use the park. So we wanted to add playground equipment. So we did, and we added, or I guess like activities. So we added the pickleball court, and people that live in a 10-minute walk, like just like piece from it, yeah, don't really use the park that much. So it wasn't very successful. So that kind of leads me to my second point, which is, do you like the pickleball court? So the people that took our like I guess survey, 8 people said yes and 5 people said no. So people do enjoy it, but it's maybe not as used as we kind of wanted it to. Okay, so one of our questions were, do you feel safe at the park? And 83.3% said yes, and then 8.3% said no. So this shows that people mostly feel safe and comfortable at the park.
One of the questions that we asked the neighbors were, what kind of plants would you want to add at the park? And we had 3 results of people who said they wanted some kind of thing that like edible kind of like thing, and we had a lot of people say they wanted some kind of shade, whether that's fruit trees or shade trees, and some people wanted some kind of like either. We had one person say that they wanted no trees, and then we had 3 people say they wanted some kind of like flower or color at the park.
This data was, in your opinion, if you were to ever sell your house, would the park bring up or down the value? And so it shows that about half of the people said the park would bring up the value of the house, so that's interesting. And then 30% said that there would be no change, and no one said that it would bring down their house. So.
Some ideas that were that the people within 10 minutes of the park said were basketball, more plants in bathrooms. There are a lot of more plants. Yeah.
We had 4 people say they would want some kind of animal area or dog park, and we had 4 people say they wanted some kind of playground area for kids from 5 to 12 years old, and a lot of people wanted a fitness area, and there was a high demand for a basketball court with 8 people saying that, and like an edible plants kind of garden. We had about 6 or more people say that, and a lot of people wanted shaded seating, and we had one person say they wanted a bathroom.
This little pie chart is about the concerns with the change of the park. A lot of people didn't really have any concerns if we were to change the park, but the majority of them were saying less parking. And I think that this is some of the people thinking that, oh, if we're going to add more stuff, we're going to take away some of the parking, and that's going to reduce the amount of people that are going to be able to access the park at a time without walking. I think that if we were to do any kind of change to the park, if we kept it within the area that's already has the mulch and the area that's already fenced in, that would continue to leave enough room for people to park and not take up just too much room, all in all. Okay. Some recommendations from our school would be possibly changing the L shape of the park into taking part of it and making it into a basketball court, or adding just like a hoop for people to play in. Or we could possibly add a porta potty. We could plant some trees, and in the meantime, while the trees are growing, we could have maybe a donation box for some kind of canopy to put over a picnic table, or just something to clean it up and make it look a little more nice. We could also have maybe a community spread, like cleaning of the park, where people come in with their kids and they make a day out of like just tidying up and making sure that the park is kept and nice.
Thank you. This was a very exciting project to be a part of, and we really appreciate your willingness for us to do some research and some real life math. I think we learned a lot from this process and really found value in math as being able to help you guys. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great.
I thought the selection of questions was excellent. I really appreciated the breadth of different ways that you looked at it, and the recommendations, not only the statistical recommendations, but the, sort of general summary, the feel that you got from people as you were talking to them. And, from my perspective, this is all information that might have been a good exercise for you, but it's stuff that we will use. This is something that I think that we can turn into concrete decisions, and I can't promise you how quickly, given the all the other things that the town and the parks are doing right now. But I would almost guarantee that you will see the fruits of your efforts in, the next, let's call it 18 months maybe, or something like that, hopefully. Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
we have to leave, we have dismissal
Yes.
in 10 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
That was dynamite.
And validating.
Huh? Yeah.
Validating.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all stuff that we've talked around about, but not really been able to quantify or
Right.
anything. So, yeah,
That's
super.
great.
One thing that they didn't mention that I noticed when I was looking at the data this morning was that when people had the option to choose amenities, and not one person selected pickleball. Even though they said they liked having it there, when they were choosing amenities for the upgrade, nobody picked pickleball.
Yeah, I wondered about the one line that said lake, down at the bottom, on the comments. It said the same thing.
That said unwanted visitors, strangers coming in to play pickleball.
Okay, moving on to subcommittee reports. I think what we would like is to, have access to this so that we can all digest it, a little bit, not necessarily all right now.
Yeah, I think she sent it to Ryan, right? Did it go to you, the slideshow?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's on the Teams.
It's
Okay,
on the
perfect.
team side, okay. How do we stand with subcommittees?
I don't have
Any-
anything
I
to
mean,
add.
There really wasn't much of an assignment
No.
outstanding right now. Before we get any further, I'd like to formally welcome our new members. And I guess you've had a chance to meet, and chat with all of us, at least briefly. I personally found that when when they stood up the committee and we got started, that it took me a while to get my head around all the different things that were going on. It took me a couple of months to really figure out all that was happening. I would encourage you all to don't hesitate to ask questions and If you don't get the answer you want, ask it again. And you might get the same answer again, but you might not.
Could I actually, could you just share briefly your background and if you're Woodfin residents or your interest in joining this committee?
Sure. So again, my name is Eric Barsati. My family and I live in Woodfin on Jonestown Road, and we purchased maybe 8 years ago. I am the director at the Woodfin YMCA and have been with the Y of Western North Carolina for about 11 years, and then based out of the Woodfin Y for about 3 years. My son goes to preschool in North Asheville on the Beaver Dam area. My wife works from home, so yeah, we're invested in Woodfin. Being so close to this and trying to find ways that we could better tie in the Y to what's going on in Woodfin, and then for my own special interest and just trying to broaden my horizons is why I applied for this board.
I'm Wayne, and I live in Riverwalk, right across the street from High Five. And I use I paddleboard the river a lot, and I'm certainly interested in a Greenway connection from here to the River Arts District, and interested in helping out the community, and I thought that this committee would be a good start. Introduction to a little bit of government as well.
Glad to have you.
Great.
Okay, old business, Silverline Park Building.
Were you there this morning? I drove by and I was like, I think there's something going on.
So for you guys, the new guys, I don't know if you're aware, but we've advertised an RFP for demolition for the Silverline Park building, and are looking to put pickleball courts in that footprint. So we're working through that process right now, and I was just going to cover the timeline on where we are with that, a little background information. So the submittal deadline's the 13th, so that's coming up next week. I have received one bid and have had several conversations with other contractors, so I'm hoping we get a good response to that RFP. I wanted to kind of touch on, I wanted to kind of go over the informal building requirements so you know what the town's responsibility is going to be once we get those bids and what it's been up to this point. So the informal bidding requirements are for contracts from $30,000 to $500,000 construction contracts, meaning that there's no formal requirements for solicitation. If it's a formal bid, there's very strict rules that have to be followed for verbal, written, electronic communication, those kind of things, and that's not the case here. There's no required advertisement or minimum numbers of bids that we have to receive. For formal, I believe it's at least 3. That's not the case here. The record of the bid submitted is not public record until the contract is awarded. Back to the timeline that we have here, we're hoping to award a contract by the end of the month. At that point, we'll let you know who we award that contract to. But we still have to select the lowest responsive bidder, and that's in relation to the RFP that was submitted and what information we've requested to make sure that has been submitted as we've requested it to be. So I just wanted to put that out there so you can kind of know what we're working with.
Have you received any interest or know about how many?
We have one bid that has been submitted. I haven't opened it. I was going to do it all at once. But I've had several phone calls and emails.
So when you say lowest responsible, you take the lowest price?
Lowest price that's responsible and responsive. So they have to follow the rules of the RFP, and they have to be in good standing, basically. There's statutory language around what that means.
Just out of curiosity, what's the difference between an RFP and an RFQ? A proposal and a quote?
It's not a quote, it's qualification.
Qualification.
Which doesn't include a cost of proposals.
It's so
Okay.
that you pick
Okay.
it's, an architectural firm or a landscape architectural firm. Based on qualifications,
Yeah,
not costs.
that explains it.
So the next steps for where we are with the demolition project and where we want to be. So hopefully work will begin in March after we enter that contract with the demolition company for demolition of the building. Somewhere in there, we'll assess the state of the concrete slab to see if it is reusable for the pickleball courts. Walt and I, more so Walt than I, have been working on options for salvaging the materials. We'll continue to work on that while this process is going on. We'll see what the responses we get say. Hopefully, some of these contractors will have some ideas on, what we can and can't do. We took a walk this morning. Do you want to?
Yeah, I'd like to address that.
Okay.
The only, at Ann's recommendation or referral, Adrian and I have been emailing back with Michael, and he never uses his last name, so I don't remember what it is. Who is a member of the
New Life Church.
New Life Church. And early on, he met with their pastor that's in charge of projects. And that person expressed an interest in helping out some way. So that was followed with an email that kind of laid out the scope of what we're trying to do. And I had initially thought that the church would take material and do something with it. And they're not interested in that. They're not interested in the doing something with it part. But they have apparently a substantial potential workforce that would go in and salvage whatever was worth salvaging in the material within the building. And what is in there is a lot, meaning thousands of square feet of R19 and R31 insulation that is in 2x4 bats. And that to me is what I thought was the thing that would be potentially most valuable in terms of something that could be easily gotten into people's homes, that could be done on a do-it-yourself basis, that you just take these things and lay them up in your attic if it came down to that. But as we walked through today, they saw a lot of things that I had not previously seen. There's a lot of PVC, vinyl siding that was put on the walls so that the dogs, when it was doggy daycare, would not tear it up. There's a lot of aluminum, both in the channels that are holding up the suspended ceiling and the roof that's out front. They just saw a lot of aluminum that could be taken to Biltmore scrap. There's got to be miles of conduit, so just metal that could either be reused somehow or could be scrapped out. And depending on what the demolition contractors say, it would be a matter of having a short window to, get that stuff so that it was easily accessible for somebody to take out. They also asked about the roof, because the roof could be taken off. The value of the roof, if it were new in today's metal price, would be $12,000 or $13,000. It has real value, and that was one of the things when we did the initial walkthroughs with the people that expressed an interest in bidding, and there were about 3 or 4 different contractors at that point, that they thought that they might also be interested in salvaging it. So the demolition people have, the first option on anything. Beyond that, it seems to me that anything that has gotten out of there and gotten into someone else's hands that can benefit by it would be that much less that would have to go into a landfill. It would consequently save the demolition contractor on tipping fees and labor to remove and that sort of thing. But all that remains to be seen. So the 2 things necessary to get the material actually recycled would be, 1, getting it out. We have a potential labor force that would do that, but then it has to be gotten someplace, gotten into somebody's hands. And that is an aspect that we haven't tackled, we haven't even approached. The other thing was that in looking at the recycled materials, the salvageable materials, so this is the aluminum, steel, and anything that could be taken to Biltmore scrap or sold, not for repurpose, but just got rid of. I expressed the opinion that my personal vote would be for any money that generated from that to go to the church. They would be the ones providing okay, I was only speaking for myself. The town hasn't weighed in on that. That is something that the town would have to decide, how to handle that. Whatever window we've gotten, it's going to be pretty short in order to do something. So it seems to me that there needs to be some decision perhaps by the board through the staff as to what can be done with material that is removed. Based on the state statutes, if the town declares it, or even if they declare it of little value, they can declare it of no value. And it can be given away to anyone, it can be disposed of any way they
That
want.
part's already been taken care of with the resolution for the surplus of the building.
It
so,
has?
yeah.
Okay. So then it's just a matter of finding, the people that could benefit by that and advertising it, getting it in their hands. So that's kind of where it stands right now. This second aspect of it, about who to, is what needs to be conquered, or else there's no point in spending any time taking it apart.
Can you speak to who else you've talked to?
I spoke to the one fella whose name I'd have to look up that I forwarded to you that was interested primarily in the roof. This church group is the only ones that I've been able to find that would potentially be interested in providing the labor aspect. I did talk to the head of the Habitat demolition team. Deconstruction team, they call it. They walked through and said that there was nothing that they could use. Actually, pardon?
Light fixtures, light switches, they can't use any of
It's the labor.
Okay.
Because they're paying somebody to do it. So that's why if we had the labor to do it, there is an ocean of stuff in there that's perfectly serviceable. I mean, there's thermostats laying around. There's all sorts of stuff that could potentially be used, but it has to be gotten out. And even the building, for those of you who haven't been in it, has been heavily vandalized. But even for the things that have not, like the toilets that have not been broken, the Habitat woman said they couldn't even use those because they didn't have the right internal parts. That the flush mechanisms would need to be replaced. But other than that, it's porcelain. I mean, it's perfectly usable.
Did they say anything about the doors?
Habitat did not, but when she looked around and said, we can't pay somebody and do this. There are, dozens of doors in there that, could be used. The hardware, a hardware set on a door has got to cost, $25 or $30 or something like that. Every door has hardware on it. There's got to be, I'll say, at least 80 or 100 feet of Formica countertops in there. Now, these are not kitchen countertops, they're work surface areas, but, they're, I didn't measure them, probably 28 inches deep. It's the sort of thing that anybody could use for a workshop, or, they could rip it up for shelving, or, and all of those are held up by brackets. I just see all kinds of stuff.
So New Life would supply potentially the workforce to come in and deconstruct. Just curious, like, are they insured? Like, to me, it seems like it could be hazardous. Is that to the town any kind of concern, like just a group of people going in and, like, did they
I
need
mean, there would,
insurance?
I'm sure there would have to be a waiver of some sort involved.
Right, okay.
But I don't know that it's a huge concern.
I haven't seen it, but my understanding is that we already have a volunteer waiver
We do.
in place, so they could sign that. Yeah.
Two questions. Why do we think there's so few bids to demo the building? And then my second question would be with regards to the church providing volunteers and then maybe a financial kickback towards the end on anything that we could recoup. Are they aware of the potential financial kickback to the church?
The first part, we don't know how many people are going to bid.
I don't think it's a concern that we're not gonna get many bids. I think it's a concern that we're not gonna get many bids that have, that address the salvaging the materials concept of the project.
Okay.
It's not uncommon for bids to come in on the last day.
Okay.
So, I mean, at this point, to say that there's only one is
Okay.
not a material concern. The issue of money to the church only came up this morning. As a matter of fact, this morning was the only time that we've met with them that I.
Secondary to them offering volunteer.
Yes, and they had just said, we think, and so this morning was the only time that there was an opportunity to walk through the building with them, and it wasn't even the pastor. It was this contact, Michael, the contact person that we've had, and one of the church members who is a contractor. They've got another, and he looked like a general contractor, based on the tools in the back of his truck. They have another contractor that is an electrical contractor that they mentioned. They said, oh, he should have been here to see, some of the stuff. I mean, even things like junction boxes and things like that, they don't give those things away anymore. And there's dozens and dozens of those sorts of things in there. So, as far as money in the church, that is something the town will need to formally decide.
At this point, we've asked them to create a list of what they are what they would be interested in salvaging, and once I get that, we can move forward with what needs to happen next.
Thank you.
Did they say that?
Yeah, I told them to.
You did? Okay, because that's not what I heard.
That's what, we had that conversation at the end of the meeting.
Okay. What I heard was that at some point we would develop a list of the stuff that could come out of it.
That's what I
Okay.
asked them to.
Specifically?
make a list.
Okay.
Yeah.
New Life is in my neighborhood, and they do projects in our neighborhood about once a year at least.
Okay.
Or in my backyard. Yeah, they're good people, for sure.
So our goal is to have the demolition of the building complete in April. That's the tentative goal, but that's where we are with it. I mean, we want to get it done sooner than later, but we also want to make sure we take care of all these things too, so. And then the next 12 months, so we are going to be looking at pickleball, but we first need to look at restrooms. And I don't want to look at any of it until I get the bids for the demolition to see where we are, how feasible it's going to be to do restrooms this year, and what we need to put off till next year. We're looking at budgets right now, so that's where I'm at with that. So yes, pickleball's on the horizon, but it's not the very next thing. We need to get those permanent restrooms constructed. So once we get the bids and the demolition started, I'll start looking into both of those things, and over the next 12 months, hopefully have contracts for restroom construction, and at least starting on the design of pickleball, if not moving forward with that as well.
For the new members, would you review the existing budget for the park for all of this?
So for Silverlawn Park, we currently have about $250,000 in the budget, and that would include the demolition and the restrooms. I don't have any idea what the demolition is gonna come in at. It may be 100, it may be 250, I don't know. I'm hoping that we can add restrooms to that, but the site is located in the floodplain, which makes that a little bit difficult. We've gotten some quotes in the past for restrooms on the site, and it was about 110,000. And that was for one restroom. It's called Waterloo, I believe. And it's kind of like a portable type permanent structure. And so, one of those would be half of the budget that we have right now. So again, that's what I'm looking at, waiting until we get these bids to see where we are and then what we can afford. I'd also like to talk to people about, custom built restrooms or prefab building restrooms. So we're not stuck with that idea, but that's kind of the ballpark we were looking at about a year ago. We got a ballpark bid or quote from a paving contractor for the pickleball courts. And this is just the pad. This isn't the fencing or the painting or the lighting or anything. It came in at about 40,000. But that was partially using the pad that's there now, and we don't know if that's going to be usable or not yet. So, did I miss anything?
No, but I'll mention that I was out at Reams Creek Golf Course for an event a couple of months ago, a month or so ago. And they just put in fairly recently I think it was 4 pickleball courts. And the person that was in charge of that was not there. I sent her an email, never got a response and never followed up on it. But that would be, a source for current information about who did the work, total cost, and, just, more background information to actually, working into a final design and bid.
Yeah, the other board member who's not here today works for the city of Asheville, so he put me in contact with some of their people who had been involved with their pickleball courts. I don't know if you've seen that in the news. There's a war between tennis and pickleball, and so they've been really involved with that, and they haven't constructed new courts. They've repurposed old tennis courts, so it's not quite the same thing, but they're very knowledgeable about pickleball and what that needs to look like and the difference between recreational and competitive and what we want on our courts. And there's even a pickleball handbook that's about this thick, and it has the dimensions what the courts need to be and what competitive versus recreational is. So those are all conversations we'll have eventually, make some decisions on.
So is that an official decision that pad, if it's in good shape, will be pickleball courts?
Not official, no. I haven't heard anything different, but it's not official.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys are aware that we did a survey a couple months ago for repurposing the Silverlawn Park where that building is right now, and the results came back overwhelmingly for pickleball. We do know that the USA ambassador to pickleball let her people know about the survey, so that probably skewed it a little bit. But even when we took those numbers out, the citizens of the Woodfin still wanted pickleball there. So,
And to share a little background, I brought pickleball to the YMCA of Western North Carolina about 8 years ago. We began at the Reuter YMCA in Biltmore Park 8 years ago, and it's since any of our facilities that have a gymnasium, pickleball's there 5-6 days a week. So and we put on a couple tournaments in the past as a fundraiser for our annual campaign. So I just want to have a little insight into that and the good and the bad that comes with.
I would like to hear your insight.
That's great. It's going to be useful to have your knowledge base.
And Walter, correct?
Walt, yeah.
Walt, sorry. We had met inadvertently a couple, maybe last summer, right?
Yeah.
With your interest around
About
pickleball. Around pickleball, and then somebody put me in contact as I was maybe not the pickleball ambassador for Western North Carolina as was, kind of giving that away. But just based on my background and having knowledge of that group and the game and what it requires.
Excellent.
Any more questions about Silverline?
So did Habitat for Humanity, obviously, they said they couldn't provide labor, but did they talk about anything they would be willing to take?
That would be the next the next question, and that was one of the things that the fellows asked several times today. Would they take all these doors?
Right.
You know, for example,
Junction boxes.
there's at least two 3068 fire doors there that would be, you know, hundreds of dollars to buy. I can't imagine them not taking hardware and that sort of thing. Whether they would want that many door slabs, you know, hollow core doors, stuff like that. That would be part of the, you know, disposition, asking them if they would do it, if they were interested in that. So we don't know.
Is there also the possibility that things could be just sort of organized and then it'd be like a free yard sale on Saturday and people who live up the hill could come and get what they want?
That would be my thought, you know, that if stuff could be gotten to the front of the door, you know, I mean, out to
Right.
where it could be easily loaded so that people, you know, didn't have access to walking through.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, there's two rooms right in the front. If the more desirable material could be made available, I would see, you know, free cycle or,
Right.
you know, just putting a sign out and say, come and get it. You know, it has no value as far as we're concerned. Actually trying to do something with it, I think is well beyond our capability as a committee. And there used to be, through your husband, there used to be a couple of businesses in town that were nonprofits that would go in and insulate people's homes and do that sort of thing. Those have been phased out, and a for-profit business grown out of that is doing contracting work for maybe for the city or the county, doing essentially the same thing, but as a for-profit thing. The problem with any of that is, I can imagine, I haven't asked, I don't know for sure, but I can imagine that they're not going to be comfortable taking used material and putting it in somebody's home. Whereas if we could get it in somebody's hands, I mean, I'll go back to the insulation. All the insulation is in 2x4 bats. And that's an unusual size for most building construction. But that would lend itself to either or not tearing the paper off and just laying the stuff around in the attic. I mean, it would be dynamite insulation, you know, but just, and that could work easily for anybody that has access to their attic. So, you know, I mean, it's,
When was the last time the building was in use?
a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, 2.5
Not
years
too long
ago.
Half of it was a doggy daycare. The other half hadn't been in use in a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, and the roof is 4 years old,
Something like that. It's
I
not very
think.
old.
you know, so the roof is fairly new. It's an awful lot of metal up there. Any other questions, comments? Okay. The Riverside Park and the Waste Pro buildings?
So I don't know if you guys are aware of these buildings that are on the old Waste Pro site.
I know about.
So we need to get those removed for the Riverside Park expansion. And I just wanted to let you know that I was going back and forth on what to do with them. Thought about including them with the demolition for Silverline Building, but didn't. So the new plan is to have the council approve a surplus resolution at the meeting this month. And then we're going to put them on GovDeals, which is a government eBay, and sell them that way. I've had some people contact me directly and ask if they can just come get them, so I know people are interested. And that's just the fair way to do it, is to put it out there for bid like that. So that's the plan for those. Again, council will be approving that this month. We'll go ahead and get it out there, and hopefully these buildings will be gone as well. That also includes, I don't know if you can see in that the left picture on the far left, that little structure with doors open. That's one of the buildings. I don't think it has 3 walls, but we have to get rid of it.
It's a
so
pushover.
We'll include that one.
Yeah, actually, the big thing that's not shown there is the 1,500 or 2,000 gallon oil tank.
And we will include that too as well.
Okay.
If I recall correctly, there's sand in one of those.
There used to be our Public Works
Salting, right?
salt bin. We're currently working on plans for a new one on their site that we'll have in place before they need salt again. So I think they have somewhere to keep what they had left for this year away from these buildings, so,
Meaning getting it hauled out of there?
yeah.
Because we haven't used a whole lot this winter.
Yeah, they may not need, they obviously didn't need as much as they usually do this year, as mild as the winter's been, but I had talked to the Public Works Director about the timing, and he was good he's good with his timeline, so he's got a plan of some sort.
Okay, just for everybody's information, that Quonset type building that is damaged on the side, those are modular buildings that are still manufactured. That manufacturer is still making that, all those panels based on this one fellow that I talked to that was interested in it. And it's all put together with bolts. So that means that a person on the inside, person on the outside, and an impact wrench can disassemble those panels pretty quickly.
So they take it apart to move it?
Take it apart,
Okay.
yeah.
What about the rectangular building?
Rectangular building would
that
probably
go?
have more damage, but it's just, from the siding and stuff. But it also can be disassembled. They're put together with bolts. It's a big frame,
Okay.
metal frame building.
Interesting.
How is it attached to the ground?
Yeah. how does it not just-
There's a channel, a U-channel along the bottom, and it's just bolted down.
Yeah, they could probably just cut the bolt heads off and lift her up. Whatever sections they have, just get the bolt heads out of the way and they'll be good to go.
Okay, so that's going to go out to the board meeting next week? Cool.
Week after?
Any more
It's good.
thoughts, questions, comments? Okay, so the wave modeling,
So this is about the task force we had talked about before, and just so you're aware, the wave feature that we're planning to construct next to Riverside Park, we had the idea that once that feature's in place, we'll need some help with event management for that feature, letting us know when maintenance needs to happen, people to help us with that kind of thing, eyes and ears on the ground for us in a way, but also to help us with the event management. So we're trying to solicit a task force of people that we hope to assemble in March, and they can go ahead and start meeting. Construction on the wave's not slated for several months, and so we have some time to get the group together. But had asked the Parks and Greenways committee members to identify people that might be good for that committee. And so here's the kind of professionals or the areas we'd like to highlight on the committee. We had some ideas as staff on who these people might want to be, but I wanted to get feedback from the community through this committee. So I'm going to kind of turn it over to who had offered some suggestions on that, and we can talk about those people and then others that I might want to reach out to, and hopefully come back in March with the recommendations for the full task force.
before we do that, size of the task force?
7 to 9.
And what sort of time commitment are you asking of them?
Maybe once a month, maybe. I don't think it would be much more than that.
That job summary you sent was really helpful.
Yeah, there's on the Teams page somewhere. I'll email it again. I can't remember where it is. It's on the Teams page somewhere, but I'll email it to you.
It's in the January documents.
Okay.
'Cause I was looking at it last month.
It's like a marketing brochure for this task force that they were using to get the word out.
And for you two, have they been added to the Teams page?
Yes.
You've already-
Yeah,
Okay, good.
I reviewed it.
I'll jump in.
Okay.
Justin Thompson, who I sent over, is so ideal for this. So he was founder, co-manager of, there was a music festival for years up in Hot Springs, the French Broad Music Fest, and that was his baby. And he also now puts on like one wheel events. He is really great at event marketing, but also logistics, planning, probably risk management. He's a really good paddler too, so I can't say enough great things about him. He's also really well known in the area, so he'll be a connector. He's lived in this area for years and years.
One thing about being old is you have a history. The French Broad River Foundation actually started Riverfest.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you know Justin?
Just
probably?
barely.
And maybe hired him and he ran with it?
Ran with it.
Yeah.
I've got my T-shirt from 1989.
I just have to say, I was proud of that get when I reached out to him. He's like, this is perfect for me. I would love
Yeah,
to be
he
a
seemed
part of
pretty
it.
He's a
excited.
great guy, what I remember.
Yeah, he's a really good guy.
So I think our idea is to fill kind of a person to cover each of these categories. So that's why I said 7 to 9.
I like the risk manager.
Which category would you?
I would probably put him outdoor event manager,
Yeah.
Okay.
but he'll also know, like, he comes from the outdoor industry. He was the GM at Watershed Dry Bags for a number of years. So he knows, like, he could be really great for connecting with, like, partners and
Okay.
in the interim, he could probably fill a couple of roles until you get everyone that you need.
If there's not an ethical issue, I'm more than happy to be a recreational paddler. That's what I do out there. I pulled 2 tires out of the river last summer. Paddleboarded, don't even know how many times.
Really?
I put in at the north end of Carrier, south end of Carrier Park or Hominy Creek and paddleboard all the way to High Five where I pull out, where I take out.
I think it would be beneficial to have a, one of our committee members
Well,
on that.
I was gonna nominate Coral as the marketing specialist.
I think we talked about that last time, and I said I would liaison between, because I think it'll be good, and Wayne and I can do it together, bring back the information so that there's continuity between the two committees.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to tag team it with Wayne.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've been talking to Eric about, I've been filtering people to Eric, so.
He emailed me, he forwarded me this stuff yesterday, but I haven't had a chance to
Great,
look
so
at it.
Rowan Stewart is the UNCA, Assistant Director of Outdoor Programs.
He seemed pretty interested.
Yeah, she.
Sorry.
She's the gal that turned you on to the, oh, she's perfect.
She's from,
Yeah.
she was doing the event in Columbus.
Okay,
And
yeah.
so she was interested, and then I asked Will Geiser at the French Broad River Academy if there were any parents or teachers, and he said he was certain he could get, that there were a number of people interested. But I just said, great, let's, when Eric's ready, talk to Eric, or Eric will reach out.
It would be nice to have somebody from French Broad,
Yeah.
just because of their proximity to
Right.
everything.
Yeah, agree.
That would be,
Maybe Will would do it.
Maybe, I think he's on another
He's committed
committee,
out, over committed.
within the town already, so it may be too much, but
Okay.
definitely not a bad idea.
It looks like from our original list, we picked a bunch of you guys to do it, so I don't know if that's true. Okay.
But Will's ready to reach out to his network of people
Okay.
whenever Eric says go.
He's ready.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Do you want me to reach out to Will?
Sure. Yeah, I did the connecting, I feel like it's,
Yes.
you don't need me to
Right.
be a part of that puzzle anymore.
All right,
What do you envision the local government expert?
Eric Hardy had put his name by that.
Oh,
so,
perfect, okay.
Good.
We can just recruit him for that.
okay, so what's the count now?
So I
1,
have,
2, 3, 4,
I have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5? 6.
Coral, and.
Well, between Justin and Will's connections, surely there
Justin,
could be
Rowan.
another couple people.
Will, I have counted Will as one. Let's see what he says.
There may be two or three in his orbit that would be good fits for various reasons, so.
So I think we're probably good unless there's anybody you're just dying to tell me about. If you think of anybody in the next couple of weeks, just shoot them my way. But I'd say the deadline would probably be the end of February, and then, so we'd be ready for, those appointments at the next PGAC meeting in March.
They have to
Okay.
be appointed,
No, not,
because it's a task force, right? We don't have to.
yeah, I
like,
just want it,
formalize
I just want it to kind of be official.
You want
so-
it buttoned up, no, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to marketing responsibilities, particularly concerning the,
Yeah, the email I sent.
the email, the stickers, and all of that.
So I tread lightly there because, it's great to have awareness and the word getting out. It just, my husband came back from being down there, talking to Derek, buying straps, whatever he was buying at French Broad Outfitters, and came back and he's like, hey, I picked up school stickers. I'm like, what, fundraising? And I hadn't even really thought about your point, Ann, of the fact that, like, we had reached our fundraising goal. So there's some fundraising that's happening via some marketing collateral over at French Broad Outfitters, which is over by Richmond Hill, and that's great. It's great that team is helping build awareness. It just got me thinking, and I come from the marketing side, like we ought to maybe have some parameters around our branding as the wave comes into its own and is a Woodfin entity. It feels like maybe this is maybe a little too formalized, but like some branding standards around it, so there's continuity. Not that so it's not the Wild West of, people promoting it. We want people to promote it, but I think that we all have to be on the same page. That's my gut feel, to kind of catch it early and not discourage, but come together, work together to build out a brand that represents Parks and Rec. Because I think too, like it's an extension of Woodfin's Parks and Rec, and like how are we tying that all together?
We do have a brand, we have a logo for Parks and Rec.
We do.
Was this
You-
cleared
you-
through you? Was their fundraising cleared through you?
No,
Or
I think it
anybody in
happened
the
before my
town?
time. Yeah. And I had emailed back.
Yeah, no, I read your email.
We're not gonna stop into private organizations or
Right.
entities from fundraising or creating a logo I'm not totally against having some parameters around it and being more strategic about it, but I don't think that's gonna stop things like this from happening. So, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing as long as the town's involved, and I get that part, but as I explained to Coral, I think the town was involved. It was just before my time, and somehow what communicated to you that was happening. And somebody at the town approved it. So that's, I don't know.
And I know it's Mark Hunt's art. I'm well aware of that. And it's cool art. And anything Mark Hunt touches, I'm like, Mark is the man. So I'm not trying to discourage it. I just
other
think it's a
thing I-
conversation that needs to, as it really is there and it's alive and the wave is happening, I just think at that point, I don't want you to lose sight of it being your baby.
Right, and so it also comes down to who's gonna who's gonna create the marketing strategy and who's gonna enforce it. Is the PGAC gonna help with that? Is the task force gonna be over that? Is it just gonna be staff? And so, because that's a big undertaking, And so that's something to think about too. How's that gonna look and where do we even start?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's part of a bigger, longer picture plan, you know, as you grow this facility, your staffing, it's like eventually there does need to be a, you know, a community outreach, marketing type person internally. I know Ryan's been doing a lot of it and he's done a great job, but like assisting him, I feel like it's part of a bigger plan as Woodfin continues to grow.
I think the administration right now has the idea of hiring a Parks and Rec director type person in a couple years. So, you know, at that point, that kind of thing could be.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we'll do the best we can to.
Yeah, no, I understand it's not can't be a priority right now. I totally get that.
And I understand the concern. I totally get that too. But we're just not going to stop it every time. So, and Mark's been very, you know, we probably wouldn't be where we are without Mark. And
I
so,
completely agree.
He's instrumental to it.
Yeah.
I guess my question was more in the vein of Ann's comments about, you know, I mean, they're fundraising for who?
well,
You know, because they're effectively using the town's wave.
well, and that's, Mark is part of the fundraising team. And so that's probably part of where that came from.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in my initial email, I was very much pro. I wasn't like,
Right.
I
got
wasn't
that.
pointing fingers
I got
at
that.
all. I was just like, hey, this is a launching pad for a bigger conversation as this project matures. You know,
Yeah, I appreciate that.
it's important to have a plan on the marketing side as well as, you know, everything else that's going to be going on as we have events and such. So it's not a free for all.
I definitely think it's an ongoing conversation that needs to be had with
Sure.
this group, task force, whoever's involved with this project. And then once we have more professional staff and continue to grow, maybe we can attack it in a more systematic way.
Yeah, and I felt like as part of this committee, like that is what you would want from me, whether, you know,
Yeah.
it's just to bring the stuff in and so we're all on the same page and aware.
Yeah,
of
the
it.
eyes and ears is very
Yeah,
helpful.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
And funny enough, Shannon came in today and brought us all a sticker, so.
And, you know, maybe we adopt Mark's artwork because Mark is the man and this wouldn't be happening without him. So I would totally be for that.
Yeah, right. Understand.
I
Okay.
don't have anything else to add.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. How about the item D, prioritization of recommendations shared by the committee from State of the Parks review?
So this goes back to the presentation we got, which at the beginning of the meeting, which I thought was amazing. Geneva Maney Park, I just wanted to reopen that conversation. We had, at a couple meetings ago, we had a presentation from a lady about the fitness pad option. And for the new, are you familiar with fitness pads?
I have an idea in my head as to what we're talking about.
It's like a trademark fitness, I mean, that's what they're called, I guess. But it's like a concrete pad that has all these workout stations all over
Okay,
it.
sure.
We got a presentation from them, and they're calling, wanting to know if we're interested. And so I just wanted to open that conversation again for the committee and get just an open-ended conversation about the presentation we got, what we learned from the neighbors, what your recommendations might be for Geneva Maney Park. So I'll just turn that over to the committee for open-ended conversation.
I appreciate that the photos you shared were deficiencies.
Well, they were from the state of the parks.
I know, it highlights, it highlights the fact that something needs to be done. I'll share my comments. I thought, I was very interested in the presentation about the fitness pads. And basically, this is a series of, I won't call them obstacles, but stations that use primarily body weight things. So there are things to step up and down on, but it's kind of structured. And there was at least two of each one that led down to a bit of a wall that could be used for chin-ups or for, a number of different, exercises. And I was initially, very impressed with it. But I thought that the, $250,000 price tag was a little attention-getting also, and probably outside of the near-term interest of the town. But also, I went back and, because I was, thinking in that vein, it turns out that there are a lot of places, a lot of people that put out, the same sort of thing. It's not branded the same way. A lot of them that I saw, by a lot, 2 or 3 different companies at least, have outdoor fitness equipment. And these were, all sorts of, like ab machines and stuff like that. And as I looked through that, I realized that I liked the idea of a fitness, place. That's something that we don't have within our park systems per se. It would potentially appeal to a, sort of older age group than the kids that Maney is now attempting to draw and that Roy Pope out here is drawing. I didn't like the idea of the machines. I'm sure that they were very durable, but it just looked like they would be a maintenance problem and subject to vandalism. But I like the concept that was being presented. I feel like if we wanted to pursue that, we could do it for a lot less money and maybe not have quite the same product, but have something that was, perfectly serviceable that could be installed by somebody. So, something that would be done on a contract basis and not, have Johnny go out and, putting bolts in the ground. So I like that. The idea of a basketball court, which came up in the review from the kids, I believe that there used to be a basketball court down there. And I think that was taken out and the skateboard park was put in and the skateboard ramps were taken out. And the basketball court and the skate ramps were removed all because of vandalism or, drawing a crowd that the neighbors didn't want. And certainly the basketball court that's out at the community center now, it's just down the street. If you haven't seen one, there's a court there. I think it was early last year that they put up new nets, new goals or rims rather,
Nets.
and that they were pretty quickly vandalized themselves. So, the issue of vandalization, and we've seen what's been done to the pirate ship, with fortunately with chalk, I guess, still. So, pardon?
It's not quite as bad.
Not as bad now.
Right.
So it might have been one bad actor that, was doing it. But, so personally, I like the idea of a fitness something. I thought it would be particularly appropriate if it connected with the Greenway. And it just doesn't seem like it's going to. Isn't the Greenway going to go on the riverside of Silver Line? Yeah, so see, it's not going to be a natural connection to the Greenway, but something like a fitness thing that was in conjunction with the Greenway, I think would be a dynamite addition to the park system, in that we're positioning ourselves as an outdoor activity, biking, walking, paddling, destination sort of place. Geneva Maney absolutely needs something done with it. Okay, so that's my say.
I like the idea of that fitness, something fitness that attracts a wider range of age groups. And it's interesting, my wife and I were walking earlier this week. She asked me, whatever happened to those parkour courses, where you walk a ways and do different exercises, and maybe even something like that. I don't know if they're still doing those or not, but I enjoyed them at one point in my life.
A couple years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm in agreement with fitness pads and things, but I didn't tell you guys this when I introduced myself, but as an engineer, anything that is gonna require maintenance is like, I would definitely, I would just say no to any of that. But if it's a stationary event, then yeah, that's great. My question is would fitness pads be considered before or after just a general, like, not necessarily cleanup, but like taking care of all the things that are in disrepair currently?
We would be like
Or it'd
wiping
be
the
all
slate
at
clean.
once?
Oh,
Yes.
really?
Okay, because I wasn't sure if it was a phased event where phase one would be, okay, let's clean the place up, and then phase two would be, okay, let's introduce different options for working out.
The way that we started talking about this, I mean, we've gone through 2 evaluations of all the parks, Geneva Mania in particular, came up with shortcomings last year that were addressed. They've been identified, more of them again. I believe that what we're looking for is a complete revisioning of it. The playground equipment there is dated. It's not, some of it's in not good repair. The ground is not in good shape. The mulch is boggy in places, it's thin in other places.
It's a huge maintenance issue for the maintenance crew every year to dump all that mulch and spread it, and it still is
Right.
too low as far as code goes.
They don't do it anymore, but under the previous administration, in the review of the maintenance that was done at each monthly meeting, they would talk about how many hours they spent tightening nuts and bolts and doing stuff like that. And it was, 20 or 30 or 40 hours a month just going around to the different things and trying to, keep them in good nick. And given that, when we did the assessment last year, or the first one we did, there were still all sorts of issues with things that were broken or, separated or whatever.
A couple questions. When you mentioned vandalization or new nicks on a basketball court, would this be, is that just north of us at the boating station?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we're talking about, okay. A couple initial thoughts, right, around this park. I was surprised to hear that it'd be a total redo, which is exciting. I don't remember the playground, we were probably there in the past 6 months, being in that bad of shape. And I could be off again. And you look at trying to tie this park, which sits on the other side of the street, to the bikeway or the walkway that we're talking about. What if there was some sort of tie-in with, you've got the bike shop there, right? And you've got, in looking to refresh this park and it needs shade, what if it did have more of a picnic type area for the bikers or the walkers to take a break, to pause while they're on the trail as they continue, and somehow trying to build off the foot traffic or the business that the bike shop right there is getting, which is only going to see more business as we complete this walkway. I'm maybe a little biased because I enjoy basketball, and so when I saw that folks liked to see a nice court at that park, I thought that was a good idea. When have I used the other court that we were mentioning that's just north of us multiple times, but it's gross.
Mm-hmm. The court that's at the community center, the first big problem that has is one of drainage.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you all have had a chance to have anybody look at that, but it looks to me like it's a 3-hour fix with a backhoe. It just needs to get the drainage from the fire station. Right now, it dumps it at the end of the park. It just needs to be diverted, but it could be more involved than that.
And something along the lines of, if it did have a basketball court and trying to incorporate other uses to that court, and it being a picnic area, using part of the court to have kids play games on that, whether it's like painted on, even Woodfin Elementary on their basketball court, don't they have the United States? That's fun. And whether it's, hopscotch or foursquare, and I'm being really remedial right now, but those kind of things to, again, pull people that are walking on the path or biking with their family, pull them off to picnic and potentially spend some time there.
Of course, one of the one of the big problems is it's completely disconnected from the
Oh,
Greenway.
yeah.
I
It's on
mean,
the other side of the road.
Yeah.
I mean,
And the
it's,
pipe factory, so it's not just on the other side
yeah.
of the road, but you have to traverse
Oh,
the
so-
pipe
oh,
factory
okay,
too.
so
yeah,
It would be along the river, the walk, the Greenway would be along the river on the other
right,
side. Oh.
yeah, so, I mean, and it's a real problem for this little park. I mean,
Sure,
it's a
there's no
park that-
sightlines from the Greenway.
Exactly.
It's a park that really, it gets almost no traffic. Although I must say that I put Mangy Park on the Google Maps, 2 years ago? And I got a notice just today that Google said that there'd been 150,000 contacts on that park. Now, I don't-
Ever, or since the last time they sent you
Well,
that note?
I think the first time they said it was 100,000.
Okay.
But, I mean, I don't know how that comes about, I don't know why they bother to tell me, but, somehow it's getting, a fair number of hits.
Here's another thought about, I mean, it's my understanding that Geneva Maney was someone who did a lot for the children in the town with summer programs and youth programs, and this park is clearly geared for children, and does it matter if you then change it so that it's not geared for children and it's named after her? I don't know.
Interesting question.
There's been some comments around it not being a park at all anymore in an area for affordable housing, and I had that same question. How does that work if it was named for, I mean, it's a namesake, so.
Why do we eliminate a recreation area for a very challenging reason? How would you?
I can't answer that question.
Would the town be selling the property to?
They'd have to keep learning from experience. They'd have to keep some type of land trust or something to keep it from becoming unaffordable housing.
It was a comment in passing, and I just bring it up just as we're having this conversation.
My question, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
is, once a greenway gets put in, what's traffic, I mean, all the focus is gonna be on the greenway. There's not gonna, I mean, I don't know, but my guess would be that traffic will probably gonna decrease by a large amount if you can walk on the river versus have to cross the street.
The most people who are coming to this park are people who are walking to the park from the neighborhood, not people who are looking for a place to, as a
Having
destination.
Those types of recreation facilities within walking distance of a home is very important, just from my perspective. Not everybody wants to walk on the greenway, kids probably much rather have a playground than.
The response rate was relatively low.
It was about a third, I think, of the surveys that went out and the information that came back.
So, but my question is, how many people potentially within 10 minutes could that park be serving? If it were to be desirable, if it had shade, if it was a
Pretty.
place to do whatever, either the exercise or the playground or both, how many people would fall with it? Because the town has signed what they call a 10-minute walk pledge. Jerry did that a couple of years ago, and it's a national organization that is trying to get some sort of facility within 10-minute walk of everybody. So the town has signed on to the concept.
So I don't think we're gonna answer the question today. But it doesn't sound like fitness pads where we don't wanna put all our eggs in that basket right now.
Yeah, that's correct.
So we can move on from that and just have in the back of our minds for future. I think the grant deadline's like the end of this month, so we were gonna need to move pretty quickly. So I'll just,
What are the specifics on that grant? Like, the grant deadline for potentially to
For the
help this
fitness
park?
pad.
Oh, for that fitness pad, oh, gotcha. So that's like that company specific, they
Yeah.
offer the grant,
Yeah, my guess is
wasn't all that much.
my guess
compared
is
to how
it's
much it
always on sale.
Right.
Yeah, that's questionable for sure.
I would say that I was approached yesterday by a local businessman who wanted to donate to the town, to the parks somehow. And he actually talked about coming to, the meeting today, and Adrian subsequently talked to him, and the fact that he's interested in donating means that it's not something that really comes before us. However, given that there is no line item budget for Geneva Maney Park or trying to revamp the stuff out here, for somebody like him that wants to contribute somehow, and I have no idea how much, it may be that would be a way to do that, to, give him or that business something that either literally or figuratively they can put their name on, that feel like, okay, I gave X number of dollars and they accomplished this, and I can go look at it and see what it is. That might be one way of, at least coming up with some money, and once we had a budget, or if we establish a budget, somehow or other, we've got to either come up with a design or come up with, that fits a budget, or come up with a budget and then a design that fits it. So, it's just.
It almost seems to me with everything else we got going on that we might want to come up with a maintenance budget for the immediate future for Geneva Maney, and then revisit what needs to happen next later.
That was something that we raised a year ago, and personally am all in favor of that. It's just that it's gonna be, to fix the drainage, to do some of that stuff, it's not gonna be $1,000 or $2,000. It's
Right.
gonna be, it's gonna be a bigger amount of money.
Okay.
Okay, talk about it more next month, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So the only other thing I had under that was, is there any update on the Eagle Scout project for the Little Free Libraries?
I got zero response from them. I reached out a couple of times by email, and I initially spoke with the whatever his title is, the top scout, and he referred me to a couple of scoutmasters, and I reached out to them and copied a fellow that was supposed to be the Eagle coordinator for the troop that's in North Asheville here, and even detailed the way that I thought the project could go, so that it seems to me that what we're talking about is the Little Free Libraries and trying to do something with them. And so I suggested that it could be a matter of coordinating with the town, so that's the scout interacting with the staff here, and maybe with the board as a presentation in order to figure out what they want, then doing a little bit of repair, some surveying to figure out where they are, what they could do, and then a summary that was presented. It seemed to me like it would be an ideal project, but
So that, would you say that's a dead end, or?
I don't think it's a dead end. I think it's a good project for them. And the one that's closest to me, that the slat roofing is peeling off and falling off. So, they need some attention. Also, the two that I check on periodically, this one out here and the one that's closest to me. The one that's closest to me, I had some books to put in, and it was too full. I mean, so it's, people are, and I've checked books out and then return them to it. So I don't know how often that goes on. I don't know the frequency of the turnover of the books. But, that one was full, so.
Do
this
you
one out
want
here.
to continue to work on that over the next month and talk about it again next month? Or
Yeah,
let me know what I can do?
No, I think we need to do something with them, because they need some attention. And for y'all's benefit, part of the issue is that the town paid for these like this, that are quote official Little Free Libraries, are about $250 a piece. So they're not for nothing. And we've got 8 or 9 of them, I think. And Jason bought them and had them installed 6 or 8 years ago. Some of them are in the parks or public property, and some of them are on private property. or at least right-of-ways. So there's no consistent utilization of them. And I can't even tell that they're sort of uniformly distributed within the different neighborhoods. But they're all mapped. That was another thing that was put on Google Maps, so you can find them there. Something needs to be done.
Okay. we'll
I
work on it.
expected a little more enthusiasm from the scouts.
We have one in our neighborhood.
A little free library.
I'm not sure if my neighbor just put it up himself or if he is actually on the map or not. I'm not really sure about that, but we have one.
Is it blue?
They're not all blue.
They all kind of O's in it?
Huh? Yeah.
Thought they all sort of look like that.
Yeah, well, they make them in a number of different styles. I think that one is probably, well, actually, I photographed all of them, and they're all in the team's folders, along with the location, so.
It's impressive.
That's all I had for that.
Okay. So where does it stand with the walking access?
That's what the next agenda item is. I was just waiting on you to call it out.
Okay, yeah, well, because I didn't see the Little Free Libraries on the agenda, so I wasn't sure where that
No,
would
that was
fall.
under study of the parks. Anyway.
Okay.
Moving on. I just wanted to give you an update on where we were for the funding opportunities I mentioned a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago. And for you guys, so we submitted 2 grants, one to French Broad River MPO for a feasibility study of Greenway connection between Woodfin and Weaverville. That was submitted on December 19th. We should be hearing pretty soon whether or not we were funded for that. We also submitted a grant to NCDOT for the paved trails grant for a feasibility study for walkability along Riverside Drive in response to the new parks coming online and just the issues along there. So
That's fabulous.
that was submitted on the 9th and January 9th, and spring is when we'll hear about that. So keep your fingers crossed. And then we do understand that there's going to be an opportunity for funds sometime soon. I haven't seen it yet. So they're a month behind, but for a comprehensive bike and ped plan for the whole town. So we're planning on pursuing that funding as well.
And who's that through?
DOT. So I just wanted to make you aware.
That would be awesome. I won't ride my bicycle on Riverside. When I ride my bicycle to town, I cut across I go over the highway and hit Merriman.
Go Elk Mountain over to,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
it's a good hill you get to climb.
It's a bunch of hills.
Yeah, oh yeah, there's no avoiding them.
Just one after another.
That's right.
And the reason I know about the little, the dirt, the sand in there is because I rode my bike from the park right here. Instead of going my usual way, which is across Elk Mountain, I was like, well, I'm gonna ride the train tracks. So I did, and that brought me behind there. And
Oh,
then-
wow.
Then I rode the train tracks till just about, right past a little bit in front of the pipe place, Silverline. It's completely overgrown, but there's actually enough grass to cut around it. And that's how I found out that the train tracks to Silverline are actually used.
Yeah.
Up to Silverline,
Yeah.
but beyond Silverline, they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was always wondering about that as well.
So how, do you access Elk Mountain from Riverwalk without getting on Riverside?
So what I'll do, I'll jump across the road, jump across Riverside, go by the
Gotcha.
coffee shop and through the mills, and then hit the sidewalk all the way up. And then there's no sidewalk from, where we are to Merriman. Well, roughly, right at
Gotcha.
Merriman. And then I'll take the sidewalk, because I'm just not riding my bike on the road. 200 pounds versus 6,000.
I used to ride on Riverside until I killed all my guardian angels.
Yeah, it's sketchy.
I would love to, but I mean, you know, if we have a greenway there, that'd be just even better.
I'm kind of a rails to trails rider, so 3% grades are, my happy place.
Well, I mean, that's what I was thinking when I decided to, because I had paddleboard, that's what I did, I was picking up my car, I paddleboarded, so I got out here, and then I ride my bike to pick up my car. So I was like, what about rails to trails? And then that's when I found out that Silverline actually still does use the railroad.
And the Craggy Mountain one uses the.
Right, Craggy Mountain uses it
Yeah.
a little bit.
The advent of electric bikes and the increased popularity of them is I think, going to completely change the use of bikes, in Asheville. The people that were put off by, the grades are going to say, I can do this, and so I think the having, bike lanes or bikeable parts of the roads is going to be far more important in the future than it has been in the past, that there's going to be much more. I mean, that's my speculation. Okay. Next item.
Next item.
Next item, before we get into the project updates from you, is that we still have to elect a vice chair.
Oh, well, okay, it wasn't on the agenda.
Yeah, well, we still need to do it.
Should have amended the agenda.
Well, we still need to do it. The responsibilities of the vice chair are not onerous. It's to run the meeting in the event that I'm not here. But we do need somebody. I nominate Gerald. It really, Lucy was the vice chair.
Yeah,
I think
right.
she had to chair one meeting or maybe two. So, but according to our bylaws, we need to have a vice chair. And it's not even like the vice chair is the presumptive chair, when the chair, resigns. So, but it should have been on the agenda. I forgot to mention it up the top. It is something that it's a piece of business we need to take care of. And I always think that for things like this, you choose whoever's not there. But if you all would like to do it, I mean, it just, like I say, it's.
Yeah, I think she took over once.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, maybe twice. It
But
must.
we're supposed to have somebody like that. So, either one of you?
I think it'd be on me to agree to something like that in my first meeting.
No, it wouldn't.
I don't see anybody
Trust
else
me.
raising their hand, so that's why I might hold it, but, yeah. Others are more familiar with this board, not raising their hand kind of has me just a little remiss to want to do it without.
I'm just a little overcommitted right now. Not that it's much of a.
Okay, all right, so it needs to go on the agenda for next meeting.
And then it's something for the two new.
And then it'll be your second meeting.
Yeah. Well, now it's my meeting number 2, yeah.
Okay, so next meeting, we need to address it.
I'm sure Gerald would do a fine job.
I'm sure he would too. And he's not here. Okay, so project updates.
I just wanted to give you a quick update on the permitting process for Riverside and the Wave. So they have received comments back from all the agencies for the 404 permit, which is the big overall permit. They being the Army Corps of Engineers. So they're working with our consultants on the comments that were received. They did submit, they did notify the public that the plans were there, and they didn't receive any responses from the general public on the plan. So I should be hearing back soon from our consultants about what the Army Corps is saying and we need to resubmit or what questions they have, but everybody's working on that. There were some questions that came up from that, like why was the site, the area of the river the wave is gonna go picked? Why was it chosen? What kind of site selection took place for other areas of the river? And I know that the consultant working on the wave, or the engineering firm working on the wave, had done some site selection, so they can easily answer that question. There's some, at one point, there was discussion of removal of the Craggy Dam. I think that's kind of halted. I haven't heard much about it lately, but one question was if that was removed, what effect it would have on the wave project. So they were answering that question. Those were mainly the specifics. They did receive the mussel survey back from the firm that did that. So there's an endangered mussel in the French Broad River, the Appalachian elk toe. And one of the requirements of permitting was that a mussel study be done of the section of river that would be disturbed to determine whether or not there were any mussels in that portion of the river. And they didn't find any, but they still consider that area, the mussels in that area because they've been there before. And there is habitat within the area that the mussels could live in. They did find some Asian mussels, so they're invasive exotic mussels. That might be why there aren't any Appalachian elk toe, because they're overtaking their habitat. But they did get the permit and, the report, and they've submitted that. They think that, they call it, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has something, a permit may affect but not likely to adversely affect, so they think that's what this project will fall under for the permit, so they're not too concerned about the mussel.
So interesting.
Our consultant's also finalizing the erosion control plan and the stormwater management plan. The erosion control plan goes to the state of North Carolina. The stormwater plan goes to the county. They hope to submit those in the next couple of weeks and have a turnaround time of response by April. So we're still on the path of finishing up permitting in the spring and going ahead with design work and construction in late summer.
When's a bat moratorium? I've never heard of a bat moratorium until this came up.
It's November to February, something like that.
Okay, so it's winter.
Winter.
What is it?
No construction can go on.
No tree removal,
No tree removal.
because they live in trees. It's I'm pretty sure it's another endangered species of bat.
Will S2O do the actual construction, or will they manage a group?
They'll
that
manage
is
a
like
group.
here? Okay. So when will that RFP go out? Is that once design?
Once we get the permit,
So we're not far off on that.
not as long as it continues to go as smoothly as it's going, no.
So you would say it's going really
I don't have any reason to say it isn't.
Yeah, I'll take
So,
it.
they've gotten some comments back, like I mentioned, the two specifics of the site selection and whatever else it was. So they've gotten some comments back, and nobody's saying, this is terrible, go away. So far,
That's great.
yeah.
What about river access from N&W?
He had to bring it up.
What's in it? Where is?
Part of because the wave is going to go all the way across the river, different aspects of it, it's more economical to, build partway and then access part of it from the other side. And the other
Okay.
side is
So it's
controlled
the
by
other
the
side.
railroad. And
Gotcha.
she's going to tell us.
Norfolk Southern is the railroad, and the consultant has been trying to reach out to them for several months now with no response. And we had talked to somebody from the NC Rail Division who's reported that they thought to get through the railroad, just to have access to that side of the river for a construction easement, was going to run us around $300,000 for engineer review, and then they would have to close off that portion of the railroad for a certain amount of time, so they'd have to have flaggers be out there, and they'd have to keep the flaggers up in hotel rooms, depending on how long it took. And so that was the $300,000. So we don't know that, we haven't heard that from Norfolk Southern, that was just through the grapevine from the state. We finally did get response from Norfolk Southern last week, though, and they have sent us a contract for engineering review of our plans with a fee of $25,000. We are working with the consultants and the engineers on the possibility of just calling off that side of the river and accessing the construction site through this side of the river. So there's a old railroad bed that runs through, close to where the wave's supposed to go. So they're talking about options for creating kind of like a low-flow bridge to carry the construction materials across that railroad bed. So they're looking at the options on what we can do, but we're not quite ready to cut ties with the other side of the river yet. So I think we're gonna go ahead and go into contract with Norfolk Southern for the engineering review, and then go from there and see where we get to.
So if they went across the old roadbed, if they had to do that, since they're talking about removing that anyway, then as they retreated, they could pull all those old pilings out and everything. It would not be a total waste. There's.
It seems like they need to get out there anyway.
Pardon?
to
So they're gonna have to
be a
get in
part of
there
that
to
process.
get, there's old pilings that have rebar in them. It affects the flow of the water, but it also is a potential hazard since
Are they right past the bridge?
it's just
Yeah, just
downstream
north.
from
Yeah.
downstream from where the wave's gonna be.
Okay.
You can go out to Riverside Park now and like
Yeah, you can
towards
see
where
it.
the waste pro
Yeah.
site is and see it.
Yeah, that's a hazard to navigation when you're paddleboarding.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh. Well, we probably don't want it there with wave riders either, so.
It's something you gotta look out for.
We are meeting with the consultant next week to talk about this very issue. Because one of the questions I have is if that has any effect on the permitting for the construction plans, if we're not going to be accessing that side of the river, and if we're going to be taking out the railroad pylons, does that create any effect on the river to where we would need amendments to our letter of map revision for the project? So those are things that I'm still working out.
Greenway?
Sorry, but so potentially you're throwing $25,000 out there that is unnecessary. If
Potentially, but if we don't throw it out there and we end up needing that side of the river, then
Then it could delay
Real-
for months.
so it's rocking a hard place situation,
Literally and figuratively.
literally and figuratively. Yeah, I mean, I get it, but I don't see any way around it. Until we know for sure that we can use that side of the river only, and we don't know for, they don't know that, we don't know that for sure yet. So instead of holding it up, we'll just, there's not really been a whole lot of movement on the Greenway. We're still working on the alignment for a couple of properties and are setting up some meetings for that. DOT's holding up, letting us continue on with the easement acquisition, which is phase 2. So the county's basically waiting on DOT to say, give the green light to go forward with easement acquisition. We hope that happens any day now, but we're just in a waiting game.
Couldn't that feasibility study be used in the future for possible parking on that side of the river, on the other side of the river as well, if it's an access for construction? I mean, I'm just trying to think of ways where it wouldn't be a waste.
there's not a road there, right? It's just a railroad.
I haven't been over
I
there.
think it's just the railroad over there.
There's a
But
road, but it's in between the railroad, or it's on the other side of the railroad. The railroad's in the middle of it and the river.
my understanding is it's not a matter of acquiring property. It's a matter of getting access during construction and then presumably, reclaiming or.
It's just a construction easement, is all it's for.
Is it that gravel part? Sometimes I cross the bridge and run down that road. There's like, as soon as you take a right, there's a bunch of gravel.
Oh, I think it's
down-
further up than that.
Okay. I don't go very far down the road, so.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
explore next time.
Okay. So we're at the end of the agenda.
Yep.
Just as a comment to you all, from time to time, issues have come up that we felt were important, but that, we weren't in a position to address or were maybe a little bit out of our bailiwick. And so we have this future discussion items at the bottom of the agenda, and it's just as a reminder that, we think these are important, but we can't deal with them now, but we don't want to forget about them. And since water quality went on there have been several discussions at the city and county level, about improving water quality in general. As a matter of fact, with all these, there's been, some discussion, but that's the reason that it's sort of down at the bottom of the agenda. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion.
So we stand adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Yeah.